Hey everyone, Coach Mark here, and before I dive into today's topic, make sure to find me over on Instagram as Coach Mark Escribillo. I offer one-to-one coaching. It's what I do full-time. The odds are very good. I'd love to work with you, and if you have any questions, hit me down in the comments below. The best topics are ones I'll turn into videos. With that being said, let's get into it. Would you stop banging that barbell? You've probably heard this trending audio on Instagram. It's usually followed by a parade of very mediocre lifts and crappy attitudes. And I'm going to make the argument that you probably should stop banging that barbell and discuss how eccentric control in your deadlifts will help you out with bigger pulls and better manners. So there's this idea that's been perpetuated by porcelain hands, glass backs, and attention-starved influencers that the eccentric phase of the deadlift is either dangerous or unnecessary. You see it all over the place. People either just drop the bar outright or slam it into the ground, believing that the descent offers no benefit. The reality, though, is learning how to master eccentric control in the deadlift is incredibly overlooked at actually getting more weight off the ground in subsequent workouts. And especially if you're doing something like Strongman, where the deadlift will often be contested for reps, learning how to use the eccentric to set you up for better subsequent reps is a very underdeveloped skill that might just make the difference between a podium finish or zeroing the event. Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I understand the bar is going to make noise, especially when you start loading a bunch of plates on there. It's inevitable. However, a controlled descent, it's not so much about reducing the noise, but actually making your deadlift do better in the future. You know, even for myself, my deadlifts aren't silent, but my 600-pound deadlifts tend to be more quiet than deadlifts that are less than half the weight. Controlling your eccentric helps build power for your concentric phase, getting that bar up and moving. Let's dive a bit more into the benefits of eccentric control in the deadlift. One of the big benefits is muscle gain. You want to think of this as your time under tension. Look at bodybuilders, for example. They'll often talk about milking the weights, controlling them down, rather than using it like a catapult. They lift more like a forklift. Also, you're generally about 20% stronger during the eccentric phase. So why is it that a weight that you're 20% stronger lowering suddenly becomes more dangerous? That simply doesn't track. By using the controlled eccentric in the deadlift, you're going to expose your posterior chain as well as your upper back, forearms, and grip to more time under tension. So that'll help develop these individual muscle groups, and it develops them specific to the deadlift. Now, in terms of technique development, this is incredibly underrated when it comes to the deadlift. The controlled eccentric forces you to be very mindful of the bar going back down. And if you get sloppy or lazy, what you're going to find is those slow eccentrics, they're going to light up your low back and not in a productive way. They're going to really punish bad form, which is why I think a lot of people don't like the slow eccentrics. But by controlling that bar, creating that tight bar path, you're going to really focus on a proper hinge back as well as shaving your legs. It's tight and it's efficient, and it's going to help you learn how to properly load your glutes and hamstrings to power the next rep. And coming down like that, it also locks in your hip height for a stronger start in subsequent reps. Now, for those of you who are going to be doing the deadlift 4 reps, such as CrossFit or Strongman athletes, generally you do have to wait for an up command before you can begin the next rep. So the argument is, oh, well, your stretch reflex dissipates. If that were actually the case, think about your bench press. Even if you come down and pause the rep and then come up, you will almost always do more weights versus if you're starting from the bottom up. Louis Simmons said your stretch reflex could be stored for 3 to 5 seconds, so we'll defer to him in that context. And again, just learning how to perfect your hinge and making it smoother is never going to be a bad thing in terms of developing a deadly deadlift. A lot of people will often say that 1 rep max calculators are wildly inaccurate on the deadlift done 4 reps. And this is true because for most of them, each rep looks wildly different because they're either crashing down and not resetting their position or they're bouncing the reps. So let's talk a little bit about a very helpful cue and how it can improve your deadlift performance 4 reps. And the cue to help with this is don't break the tile. If you think of it like your weight plates are coming down onto some kitchen tiles, you'll understand exactly what I mean. These tiles aren't going to be so fragile that if you blink too hard at them, they're going to break. But at the same time, getting sloppy is going to mean you're going to crack that tile. And in my case, my mom whipping my ass. Perfecting this style of technique in sets where you're doing 3 or more reps is going to pay big dividends. And I know for myself, I think one of the reasons I'm so successful in the deadlift is when I first started lifting, the gym I was at had very strict rules about noise on the deadlift. But rather than cry or throw a fit or try to get clout on social media, I decided, okay, you know what? I'm paying for membership at this gym. These are the rules. If I don't like it, I can go to another gym. And I like the gym, so I abided by the rules. And long term, it really benefited me. And now let's see how this plays out in a set. Right, so I'm going to show you my top set on deads from this past week. It's 545 for 4. And so what you'll notice is I'm very big on that eccentric control and keeping that bar in close even at a maximal load. Because again, this is a new 4-rep max for me. Hook grip, of course. See, that bar is right up against my shins, and every rep I cycle through, keeping it tight. Also, a good little trick is I take my air at the top of my reps rather than at the bottom. That way I'm less likely to talk myself out of the next rep. Smooth, even control. That way I've got good floor speed on every single rep. Probably had one or more in me, but hey, whatever. Either way, you get what I'm driving at here. Also, important message at the end. In summary, mastering the eccentric phase of your deadlift, it's going to help you build more muscle because you're getting more time under tension on relevant muscles, and you're doing them in a way that is relevant to the deadlift. It's going to refine your technique because you're controlling your bar path as well as learning what your ideal hip position is for a stronger start. You're going to create consistency. That way each rep looks more similar so you're not all over the place. So if you are using a 1-rep max calculator, it's going to be more accurate, but also consistent technique is never a bad thing in our lifting. And we're kind of stealing something from the bodybuilders in that regard. And it's going to help prepare you for heavy pulls because you're dialing in your technique as well as building your body to have thicker, stronger muscles to support the loads of a heavier deadlift. I use this technique anytime I'm doing 3 or more repetitions in a set. I'll generally have quite a bit of eccentric control on my singles and doubles as well, but it's not as much of a priority. Again, don't break the tile, don't be a jackass. I'll see you next time.